Hello, friends. My name is Jason Clemens, and this is episode 26 of our Big Book study. We're going to begin reading in our basic textbook titled Alcoholics Anonymous, the bottom of page 76. Probably there are still some misgivings. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. Why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message. But our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. We don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. It may be he has done us more harm than we have done him, and, though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we are still not too keen about admitting our faults. Nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It is harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past. We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so, never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault, so feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make some satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We have made our demonstration, done our part, it's water over the dam. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Telling them what we are trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we are divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up the alimony to number 1. She is indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. Reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience, we ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything. Usually, however, other people are involved. Therefore, we are not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. A man we know had remarried. Because of resentment and drinking, he had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life, had secured a position, and was getting his head above water. It would have been impressive heroics if he had walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary. But if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. We suggested he write his first wife, admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try to do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. Of course she did not, and the whole situation has long since been adjusted. Before taking drastic action which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. If we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, asked God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. This brings to mind a story about one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. He subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis for discrediting the man. He thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. In fact, his rival was ruined. He felt that he had done a wrong he could not possibly make right. If he opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. What right had he to involve those dependent upon him? How could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? After consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that it was better to take those risks than to stand before his Creator guilty of such ruinous slander. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands, or he would soon start drinking again, and all would be lost anyhow. He attended church for the first time in many years. After the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. His action met widespread approval, and today he is one of the most trusted citizens of the town. This all happened years ago. And with that, at the end of page 80, let's turn to the study portion of the discussion. Let's read through, starting from the bottom of page 76 and on to the top of page 77. Here is where we find out what our purpose is. Quote, "Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us," end quote. Let's all remember this the next time we hear someone say, "I have no idea what God's will for me is." In order to be of service, we must free ourselves of the past. The process of steps 4 through 9 accomplishes this task if we are thorough. In paragraph 1 on page 77, we find out the painfully obvious. Quote, "It is harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, but we find it more beneficial to us." In the following paragraph, we get definite instruction on what we are to do in the process of making amends. Quote, "Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past." Our utmost means we do everything we possibly can. Quote, "We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so. We are there to talk about our transgressions, regardless of how this person may have wronged us." Paragraph 2 on page 78 gives us some direction regarding our creditors. Quote, "Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. That means we answer the phone when they call. We respond to demands for payment and work out a payment plan. Of course, drunks want to save up the cash and pay it all at once, but that never seems to work for us. Even if we commit to $20 per week or some other means of payment, over time we meet our obligations. If we are avoiding phone calls or not opening the mail, we cannot do God's will, can we? Having paid my way out of the financial black hole myself, I can tell you it is worth the effort. From paragraph 3 on page 78 through page 82, there are several mentions of caution when making amends. Criminal offenses are covered on page 78 to 79. A prayer for the ninth step appears on page 79 in the first paragraph, quote, "We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be." The paragraph finishes with, quote, "We must not shrink at anything." It's a funny thing. Once we have faced all these people and institutions, we fear life less. We find out that what we feared most was what resided within us. And through this process, we vanquish fear. Another caution, the involvement of others. In paragraph 2 on page 79, we read that we must be sure to account for the effect of our amends on others. A sponsor helps tremendously here, helping us to see things we fail to see at first glance. Turning to page 80, a definition of amends is buried in the text. Let's look at paragraph 3, quote, "He felt he had done a wrong he could not possibly make right." Looking at that line, we realize that we are attempting to right a serious wrong. Sounds quite a bit more than our "I'm sorry I fill in the blank," doesn't it? With our next post, we'll pick up at the bottom of page 80, where the discussion of our domestic situation begins in relation to step 9. Have a great day.